Algebra 2, what's happening? I hope you had a great weekend. This week we're going to start to explore and talk about the unit circle, which you'd be using a lot next year if you continue on with math. Check it out. So this is called a unit circle, and the reason why is it's a circle on the XY axis. The center is 0, 0, and it's a unit circle because the radius is a unit of 1. So all of these spokes that are kind of looking like they're in a tire, they're all a distance of 1. The radius is 1. Unit circle. So these spokes drawn in the unit circle are drawn at different angles. Part 1 of our assignment is to be able to find all of the angles that these lines are written at. So for example, we have a 30, a 45, and a 60. Those are some numbers you recognize from last week, right? I hope so. If I start on the x-axis at 0 and I look at a line straight up and down that's perpendicular, that forms a right angle. That would make this 90 degrees. So this chunk right here, this is a 90-degree angle. What if I add another chunk of 90? 90 plus 90 is, 180 degrees, which would be halfway around the circle. So what would it be down here if I added another chunk of 90? 180 plus 90 gives us 270 degrees. And then finally, if I add a fourth chunk of 90 all the way around the circle, 270 plus 90 is 360 degrees. So this is 0 degrees. If I travel all the way around the circle, that would be 360 degrees. Does that make sense? Again, our job is going to be to find the angles on all the other spokes. Let's check out a couple more together. Right here in the middle of 0 and 90 is a 45-degree angle. So this chunk right here is 45 degrees. 45 plus 45 lands us at 90 degrees. So what would be the middle spoke on this side? How would I find it? I would take 90 and add 45. This is a 45-degree chunk. 90 plus 45 is 135 degrees. That's easy. Here's another 45-degree chunk. 135 plus 45 degrees lands us at 180. So how would I find the middle spoke down here? How many degrees is the middle spoke over here? That's going to be part 1 of your homework assignment. Let's look at one more of these angles together. I'm going to use some color so these will stick out. Right here, this is a 30-degree angle, or piece of pie, chunk, right? So that's 30 degrees. If I take that same chunk right here, that would land me at 60 degrees. So here's 30, another chunk of that lands me at 60. Another 30 degrees lands me at 90. So another 30 degrees lands me at, that's right, 120. Another 30 degrees would land me right here at 150. Another 30 degrees lands me, I already had the number, 180. How many degrees is this spoke? How many degrees would that spoke be? So part 1 of our assignment is going to redraw the unit circle with the spokes as best you can. It doesn't have to look perfect. I have all the degrees for you on the top half of the circle. Tell me what the degrees are for the bottom half of the circle. Not too bad. Part 2 is slightly more challenging. Because this is a unit circle, we know the radius is a distance of 1, which makes this point or coordinate here 1, 0. You can see the x-coordinate, we moved to the right 1. The y-coordinate is 0, we didn't go up or down at all. Which means on the other side of the triangle right here, that would make this negative 1, 0. We went to the left, a distance of 1. It's negative 1 for the x-coordinate. That's still 0 for the y-coordinate. So what would that make this point up here? Exactly. This would be 0, 1. Again, the radius is a distance of 1. So down here, the coordinate would be 0, negative 1. That part is pretty simple for those. Our job is going to be to find the coordinates of the other dots around this unit circle. Let's refresh your memory on something real quick before we do that. Last week, we were messing around with some special right triangles, and we asked you to find the legs on these triangles when the hypotenuse is 1, just like it'll be in the unit circle, because the radius is also 1. Let's start with the 30, 60, 90. We know the short leg is half of the hypotenuse, but I'm going to use a fraction here instead of 0.5. And then the long leg is the same as the short leg, except it's multiplied by root 3. A simple way to write this, a clean way to write it, is root 3 over 2. These are some numbers we're gonna see a lot in the unit circle. Up here on our 45, 45, 90, if the hypotenuse is 1 and there's no root 2 attached to it, the leg is gonna be half of that times root 2. But a clean way to write this would just be root 2 over 2. And then the other leg is exactly the same length or same size. So these are the numbers we're gonna see a lot with 45 degrees and with 30 and 60 degrees. Let's go back to the unit circle. So back to our unit circle. To find the coordinate of this middle spoke, I'm gonna be using one of those special right triangles. We knew that chunk in the middle was 45 degrees. So if I turn this into a right triangle, a special right triangle, I know this chunk is 45 degrees. So I have a 45, 45, 90 triangle. The radius is a distance of 1. That represents the hypotenuse leg, which means that this distance here is root 2 over 2, and the height of this triangle or leg is root 2 over 2. This would represent the x coordinate, and this would represent the y coordinate to get to here. So we have root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2. Some added information that's kind of interesting. The cosine of 49 would be the adjacent divided by the hypotenuse. Well, if I divide by 1, I just get root 2 over 2. So the cosine goes with the x coordinate. The sine of 45 would be the opposite side or leg divided by the hypotenuse. Well, if you divide by 1, it just stays root 2 over 2. So the sine of this angle is the y coordinate. The cosine of this angle is the x coordinate. We got root 2 over 2, comma root 2 over 2. Let's take a look at the other side of the circle. The middle spoke over here. Now we know that this is 135 degrees because we have a chunk of 45, another chunk of 45 was 90 here, another chunk of 45 is 135, and another chunk would bring us to 180 degrees. But this chunk right here is also a 45, 45, 90 triangle. It's symmetric on both sides. You can see it's the same. So if I have a special right triangle right here, I know that this side is root 2 over 2. The hypotenuse is still 1. It's a unit circle. And this distance right here is also root 2 over 2. But since we're moving left, this number would be, that's right, it'd be negative. So the coordinates look almost exactly the same. We have an x coordinate of negative root 2 over 2. And then we have a y coordinate of positive root 2 over 2. The second part of our homework is going to be finding the points on the bottom half of the circle. Maybe you'd be able to tell me what this coordinate is right now without even using a triangle. You might notice some patterns. All right, back to this chunk right here. This line is drawn at a 30-degree angle, as we saw from earlier. So if I change this into a special right triangle, and this is a 30-degree angle, that means this has to be a 60. I have a 30, 60, 90 special right triangle. So to find the coordinates of this, if the hypotenuse is 1, like it is on a unit circle, the short leg would just be half of that. That's the y coordinate, 1/2. The long leg is the short leg times root 3, but a cleaner way to write it is root 3 over 2. That's the x coordinate. Here's the y coordinate. So we're using these special right triangles and finding these coordinates very, very easily because we know the hypotenuse is 1 for all of them. Let's take a look on the other side of the circle. If I just reflect it, it's symmetric. This triangle, would you agree, is exactly the same. It's a 30, 60, 90 triangle. The short leg is over here this time, so that's 1/2. What's the long leg gonna be? Exactly, it's the same as this one, except it's negative. So the x coordinate here is negative root 3 over 2, and the y coordinate moving up is 1/2. You guys seeing some patterns going on here? What do you think the point down here would be? How about on this side? Looking at x and y coordinates, you might be able to find them pretty easily. Okay, last triangle we're gonna look at, and again, if this is seeming crazy to you and a little foreign, go back, watch it one more time, be patient with yourself. You can always check in with me. I have office hours Wednesdays and Fridays, 1 to 2 p.m. This last line right here we knew was 60 degrees. Okay, so if I turn this into a special right triangle, I have a 60, 30, 90. It's the same as the red point, actually. The triangle is just drawn a little bit differently. Again, the hypotenuse is 1, so the short leg would be half of that. The long leg is the short leg multiplied by root 3. Here's the clean way to write it. So you can see the x-coordinate is 1/2, and the y-coordinate is root 3 over 2. Very similar to the red one, right? It's just drawn a little bit differently. I bet on the other side of the circle, I bet you could tell me what these coordinates are easy, without even drawing a triangle. Go ahead. Exactly. So if this one gets reflected, I still have a 30, 60, 90 triangle with a hypotenuse radius 1. The short leg is 1/2, but this time, since I'm moving to the left, it's negative. The y-coordinate is still moving up. It's the same as that one over there, root 3 over 2. Did you have it right before I put it up there? I bet you did. So this is difficult, but there are some cool patterns that can make this actually very easy. Take a look at all of the x-coordinates on this side. Now look at the x-coordinates on this side. They're almost exactly the same. Take a look at the y-coordinates on this side. Now look at the y-coordinates on that side. What do you notice? The second part of your homework is going to be filling out the coordinates for the rest or the bottom half of the unit circle. So maybe start over. Draw an XY axis, make a big circle, draw some spokes in. Fill the angles inside the spokes. What angles are all of those lines drawn at? Then go ahead and put the coordinates on the outside of your unit circle. I've got the top half done for you if you need to check it. Your homework is to do the bottom half. It is due by Monday. Check in with me if you guys are lost or need some one-on-one help. Hopefully this isn't too bad, guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.